Okay, just picture this for a second. A world that is completely silent. The sound of the flood is finally gone, and for the first time in, well, a very long time, there's just stillness. This is the world that Noah steps out into. It's been washed clean, it's empty, and it's just waiting. And it's right here, in this incredible quiet, that God sets up a brand new beginning for every living thing on earth. So let's dive into that amazing moment from Genesis 9.
I mean, really think about that. Noah and his family, they walk out of the ark and onto this almost alien planet. The old world, all its noise, all its chaos and corruption, is just gone. So what's next? I mean, how do you even begin to rebuild everything from the ground up? It's such a huge, daunting thought, and it's the question that really drives this whole next chapter of the story.
When you see it side by side like this, the contrast is just, wow. It's night and day, right? The world before was so full of violence that the Bible says God actually regretted making humanity. But the world after? It's a completely blank slate. So this wasn't just about hitting a reset button. This was about laying a totally new foundation, a new set of rules for how life itself was supposed to work, to keep humanity from just spiraling right back into that same chaos.
All right, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start by looking at the new operating system, if you will, that God installed for the world. Then, we'll dive into this incredible, one-sided promise that he made. After that, we'll look at the surprising, true meaning of its famous sign. And finally, we'll see why this ancient promise still matters so much to every single one of us today.
You know, God didn't just save Noah and his family and then say, all right, good luck. Not at all. He immediately established a new order, a whole set of principles to govern this remade world. It was a framework, really, designed so that life couldn't just survive, but so it could actually flourish.
So this new order, you can basically break it down into 3 core ideas. First, the blessing to be fruitful and multiply, that's back on the table. Second, a new, powerful mandate is put in place specifically to protect human life. And third, some very specific rules are laid out for how to preserve life, especially when it comes to what we eat.
Okay, so one of the biggest changes right away is the whole relationship between people and animals. Before the flood, things might have been a bit more harmonious. But now, God actually puts a new instinct into animals, a fear of humans. Now, this isn't about domination for its own sake. It's a divine safeguard, a way to protect humanity and bring a clear sense of order to the new creation.
And here's another huge shift, our diet. For the first time, humans are officially allowed to eat meat, which probably would have been a necessity in this new world. But it comes with this really profound condition. You can't eat the blood. The blood was seen as the very essence of a creature's life. So this rule isn't just about food. It's a constant, tangible reminder that life itself belongs to God and it has to be treated with reverence.
And this is the bedrock for all of it. This is why human life is so incredibly sacred. Why there's such a strict law against murder. It's because every single human being is made in the very image of God. So taking a human life isn't just a crime against a person. It's a deep offense against the one whose image they bear. And this core principle, the value of life, is the foundation for God's next, even bigger move.
And that brings us to the absolute centerpiece of this entire chapter. With these new rules for life in place, God does something truly extraordinary. He makes a promise. But you know, this isn't just any old promise. In the Bible, it's called a covenant. And what it is a complete game changer.
We tend to think of a promise or a contract as a two-way street, right? A deal. But a biblical covenant, especially this one, is something totally different. It's a one-sided, unconditional guarantee. It doesn't rely on us holding up our end of the bargain. Nope. It depends completely and totally on the character and faithfulness of God alone. It's just pure grace.
I mean, just look at the difference here. Any contract we would sign is full of if-then clauses. If you do this, then I'll do that. But God's covenant just says, I will do this. Period. Full stop. It's a declaration of what he's going to do, and it's guaranteed by himself, which means this promise is absolutely secure, no matter what humanity does next.
So who is this incredible promise for? Well, the scope is it's breathtaking. It's not just for Noah and his family. It's for all of their descendants. And hey, that's us. But it goes even further than that. It's for every single living creature on the entire planet. This is a universal promise that covers all of creation.
And here it is, the core promise, stated so simply and so powerfully. After this ultimate act of judgment, God makes the ultimate promise of preservation.
He declares that he will never, ever again use a global flood to wipe out all life. This becomes the foundation of security for the entire new world.
Now, a promise this big, it needs a sign, right? Some kind of tangible reminder. And God gives us one of the most beautiful and well-known symbols in all of human history. But as we're about to find out, the rainbow has a much deeper, much more surprising meaning than you probably think.
So yeah, of course, we all know the sign is the rainbow. After a storm, the sun peeks through, and you see this beautiful arc of color across the sky. It's become this amazing symbol of hope and beauty. But to really get its power, we have to look at the original language it was written in.
And here it is, the big aha moment. The Hebrew word that's used here, keshet, it doesn't specifically mean rainbow. Its primary meaning is just bow. And in the ancient world, what was a bow? It was a weapon of war, a weapon of judgment. So just let that sink in for a minute. The instrument of battle, of power, the very thing that symbolizes divine judgment, that is the word that God chooses for his sign of peace. It's a really startling and powerful choice.
A weapon of war is completely transformed into a symbol of peace. The imagery here is just so profound. What was once a tool for destruction is now the very sign that destruction on that massive scale will never happen again. This is the picture we're meant to get in our heads. Think about a warrior after a huge battle who hangs his bow up on the wall. The fight's over. It's a declaration of peace. While God is hanging his keshet, his war bow, in the clouds. And notice which way it's pointing, up, away from the earth. He is single-handedly declaring that his war on creation is over.
We usually think the rainbow is for us, right? A little reminder to humanity not to be afraid. And it is that, for sure. But the Bible reveals an even more amazing purpose for this sign. So who is this sign really for?
This is just stunning. Genesis actually says that when the bow is in the clouds, God will see it and remember his everlasting covenant. Now, obviously, the all-knowing God doesn't forget things. This is human language trying to describe a divine commitment. What it shows us is how seriously God binds himself to his own promise. He sets up this permanent, visible reminder in the sky for himself as a sign of his own faithfulness. So this is a beautiful, ancient story. But what does it mean for us thousands of years later? Well, this covenant wasn't just a one-time thing for Noah. It's an eternal promise that actually lays a foundation for our world and for our lives right here, right now. So let's wrap this up by looking at what we can really take away from all this.
Okay, here are 3 enduring lessons. First, the incredible value of life. This story anchors the sacredness of every single person in the simple fact that we are made in God's image. Second, the responsibility of stewardship. That promise extends to all of creation, reminding us that we have a role to play in caring for it. And third, the hope we can have in faithfulness. This whole story is a testament that God's promises hold firm, and that gives us a foundation of hope, even when our own world feels stormy and chaotic.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to reflect on. Our world is still full of storms, both literal and metaphorical, right? But God's promise to preserve and sustain life, that remains. It's a promise of peace that's hanging in the sky after the rain. So in the middle of the storms of your own life, where do you see the sign of that unbreakable promise?